Hello, my name is Adam Thierer. I'm a senior fellow with the Progress and Freedom Foundation in Washington, D.C. I'd like to make a presentation for you today entitled Who Needs Parental Controls? A look at how many homes really need them. This presentation is based upon a paper I recently released for the Progress and Freedom Foundation entitled Who Needs Parental Controls? Assessing the Relevant Market for Parental Control Technologies. It's available on the PFF website at pff.org. On the PFF website, you'll also find a copy of my book, Parental Controls and Online Child Protection, a Survey of Tools and Methods. It goes into far more detail about many of the issues I'll be discussing in this presentation. It's available at pff.org/parental controls. What I want to talk to you here about today is the fact that many media and internet critics say that government intervention, even censorship, may be necessary because parental control technologies are not widely utilized by most Americans. But the real question we should be asking is, how many homes or parents really need parental control technologies? And the answer is fewer than you think. In reality, the relevant universe of potential parental control users is actually quite limited. To understand why, consider this analogy using baby locks for kitchen and bathroom cabinets. Would we measure the effectiveness of child cabinet safety locks by asking whether all U.S. households use such safety measures in kitchen and bathroom cabinets? Does every household really need those things? No, they don't. Most homes don't need baby locks because they have no children present in that home, their children are of an age where such locks are not necessary, or they take other steps to protect their children from harmful products that might be in the home. Thus, any survey that looked at the success of child safety locks, trying to survey all homes, would produce really skewed and inaccurate results. Unfortunately, however, that's exactly what's happening in the debate over parental controls today. Critics are lumping all households together and assuming that because some homes don't use parental control technologies, it means there's some market failure that requires regulation. But not all homes need parental control tools. Okay, so how do we go about determining how many homes might actually need parental controls? Well, we can look at some Census Bureau data from the Statistical Abstract. This is a chart that's been clipped from the Statistical Abstract of 2007. It's the table on households, families, and subfamilies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to conduct the following calculation. We're going to take non-family households, add them to family households without any children, divide that by total households, and then we'll arrive at the number of households, or the percentage of households, without any children in them. Here's how that calculation works. You take the non-family households, you add to it the number of families without any children, then you divide that by the number of households, and here's what you get. 68.3% of households in America have no children in them. That's a calculation for 2007. Here's some historical data going back to 1960 all the way up to present. And what you see from this data in the next chart is that the percentage of U.S. households without children present has been steadily going upward since the 1960s and currently stands at almost 70%. Looked at differently, the number of households without any kids in them has been going down and currently stands at less than 32% of homes. So, the bottom line is that the percentage of homes that might need parental control technologies is certainly no greater than the 32% of U.S. households with children in them. But the actual universe of relevant homes for this analysis is really quite smaller. It's much smaller. Not all age groups require parental control technologies. There's little need for parental controls under or over certain ages. Moreover, some parents rely on other methods to control media and communications in the homes, especially household media rules. I spent a lot of time in my parental control book developing a taxonomy of household media rules to show how many parents actually rely on other methods besides technical controls to control media access. These include where rules, such as assigning a place for media consumption in the home, or when and how much rules, creating a media allowance, if you will. Also, under what condition rules, sort of carrot and stick incentives. And finally, what rules, specifying what your kid can and cannot consume in the home. So let's take a look at this. Let's consider this age bracketing of kids in the home and ask ourselves, when are parental controls most likely to be needed? Well, under the age of 7, there's really very little need for parental controls in my opinion. Both of my children are under the age of 7, and quite frankly, my wife and I have got things pretty well under control, and I find that most parents that are surveyed say that they can pretty much handle what's happening under that age. Of course, not necessarily the case. Some parents might impose parental controls earlier than the age of 7. I'm just starting to for my daughter as she starts to get online, for example, and she's 7 years of age. Okay, what about the older kids, the other end of the spectrum? You've got 16 to 18-year-olds who, quite frankly, if they're a couple of years or even closer to going to college, you really shouldn't be imposing parental controls on those kids, and I don't think most parents do. So it's unlikely at the two ends of these extremes of the age groups that there's a lot of need for parental controls. It's really in those middle years of 7 to 16 years of age where parental controls are more likely to be needed. Now again, this is a very subjective chart. There are certainly parents that might apply parental controls from day one all the way to the day the kid walks out the door to go to college. On the other hand, there are parents who won't do it at all, anywhere in between. So this is a generalization. Again, there are other reasons, of course, families might not use parental control tools at all. Some parents might have an aversion to them, fearing that they create distrust between them and their kids. Others might not think that parental controls work at all. Just say, forget about it. Or they might believe that their own household media rules actually are the more sensible and restrictive approach to controlling media. Some may think that the better approach is to consult ratings and program guides and information about the media their kids consume and then decide what to do about it. Particularly useful is the third-party information provided by groups such as Common Sense Media or many other websites online telling you what you can expect to see or hear in the games or the movies or the music kids consume. Another reason families might not use parental controls is that they might just not allow many media or communications devices in homes. I know families who don't have any televisions in the home or tightly restrict internet access. And finally, maybe, just maybe, some parents are lazy, and that's the reality we have to deal with, that some parents just never bother to use these things for whatever reason. Okay, so let's take a look at this in a holistic sense and understand who really needs parental controls. Well, there's all U.S. households, all 100% of them, if you will. We know that the subset of 32% households with children are the ones that are really the relevant mode of analysis. But again, for the reasons I just stated, there's actually another subset of this subset that is the percentage of households that actually utilize parental controls or might need them, and it's much smaller than 32%. We don't know what that number is because, of course, there's a lot of subjective factors that go into it. But the fact is I think it's probably less than half of the 32% of households with children. And so actually the number of percentage of households that need these parental control tools might be under maybe even 15% in my opinion. Okay, so let's summarize and bring some policy implications into this. The summary is basically parental controls are now ubiquitously available, increasingly easy to use, increasingly free of charge, and there's never been a time in our nation's history when parents have had more tools and methods at their disposal to help them decide what constitutes acceptable media content in their homes and in the lives of their children. If you want proof of that fact, please read my book. I've documented this thoroughly. I've got 250 pages worth of parental control tools and methods in that book. That being said, merely because parents have been empowered, it does not mean they are necessarily taking advantage of all those tools. And it's impossible to determine definitively why that may be the case. Okay, so what are the policy implications of this? Well, number one, again, not all homes have children or need tools, and regulation cannot be premised upon a lack of parental control uptake among all U.S. households. Policymakers, and especially the courts, should be skeptical of calls for regulation that are premised upon faulty statistical analysis and an overestimation of the relevant universe of parental control users. Number two, education and ease of use is important when it comes to parental control tools. For those households in which children are present but which are not using these tools, parents may need to be better informed about the existence of them and how to use them. Number three, engaged parenting is the main solution for many, many parents. Many parents, including me, believe that education and parental responsibility represent the first and best approach to dealing with concerns about objectionable content or troubling communications in the home. Long before we use parental control tools, many of us, in fact I'd say maybe most of us, rely first on good old-fashioned common sense. So, parental controls can be helpful as sort of a training wheels and speed bump sense, but they are no substitute for parental oversight and mentoring of our children. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. For more information, you can go to our website, pff.org. And for further reading on these issues, I invite you to look at some of these publications listed here, which are also all listed on the PFF website at pff.org. Thank you for listening.